Chapter 64. Tehran, Iran. In the very same study that the supreme leader often considered the means of war, he now entertained Ahura Ehsan and several other clerics to discuss a possible framework for peace. None of them spoke of the threat now posed by Israel, or the very real possibility that nuclear weapons could rain on Tehran at any moment in retaliation for the massive missile strike against Israel's 3 largest cities. That was too much for them to address in this meeting. Shahidi had never met President Kamara. He occasionally wondered if he ever would meet the man. Circumstances were such that the two might never meet. Shahidi would never travel outside of Iran, and no American president could risk coming to Tehran. And yet, Kamara had, on television, promised a deeply troubled world that he would make the trip to Tehran. As Shahidi had watched the telecast, he could only wonder about any man who would do such a thing. He was either crazy or brilliant, or perhaps a little of both. Ehsan, as he'd promised, delivered the information he'd received from the White House via Nash. Shahidi said nothing and committed nothing as he listened to Ehsan. But, as with the telecast, Shahidi had to marvel at the man's courage. Kamara had shown an ability to intercede personally on the world stage before. He'd single-handedly tried to forge a consensus among India, China, and others on global warming, and had almost succeeded. But this took that sort of personal intervention to another level entirely. Shahidi had to respect that. At the close of his meeting with Ehsan and the others, they asked the supreme leader about his intentions. If the Americans are serious about peace, and their president is willing to guarantee real progress, such as a meaningful Arab state and security to Iran, then I am willing to entertain the visit. Shahidi said, "You can tell the Americans we will meet." "And we will assure the American president's safety in Tehran?" Ehsan pressed. "Yes," Shahidi said, smiling. "We will roll out a real red carpet and welcome him into our home with an open heart." "Truly?" Ehsan asked. "Yes, truly," he answered. Shahidi, of course, very much doubted that any American president could guarantee either of these conditions. Israel was simply not willing to move toward either of them in any meaningful fashion. Strong-armed efforts from their closest ally were not likely to change their minds, he believed. But he would meet with the American president. He could at least do that, even as he privately wondered if they weren't just a matter of days away from the beginning of the time when the Jewish Dajjal and the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, would appear on the world stage, as his empty-headed president often talked about in public.